Shen Wei isn't resting on his laurels, but if he were, it would be understandable. He is, after all, the man who choreographed this summer's elaborate opening ceremonies at the Olympics in Beijing.
You know, sometimes we all know once you've done big things, you feel empty yourself, just like it's like you have jet lag. Your brain, your body, physically kind of stopped. That's how I felt after finished the opening ceremony for the Olympics.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He rehearsed the opening ceremony's intricate movements for months, first with his own dance company in New York, and then with the Chinese performers in Beijing. Shen Wei has performed internationally for years, but with billions watching around the globe, nothing could have prepared him for that night.
Every dress rehearsal have a problem. Even the last one before the opening will still have problems with technology or something. But that night was one perfect. It was like amazingly.
The same could be said for his story. He was born in 1966 during China's repressive Cultural Revolution, emigrated to New York in 1995, and returned by invitation of the Chinese government 13 years later to help showcase his native country to the world.
You know, maybe I still don't know how much that affect to, you know, the people who are living right now. And I'm still kind of shocked.
Shen Wei's work reflects a mixture of the old and the new. He came to New York to pursue the freedom of modern dance, but he is still a product of the discipline required by the Chinese opera studies of his youth, when he was in class from sunup to sundown and beyond.
In a really, really bad condition in my life, I can still survive. How to manage to work things out if you have the discipline once you grow up.
His creativity extends from the dance floor to the canvas. Shen Wei's paintings have been exhibited both here and in China.
Once 4 years old, I started learning Chinese calligraphy and the Chinese painting, the watercolor painting. Then until I was 16 years old, started oil painting, which means start more Western paintings. My work in the past is more like a more realistic work. But now the work is more really abstract and also connect to my dance performance.
His passion for painting comes from his father, whose calligraphy adorns the walls of Shen Wei's West Side apartment. He has combined his two loves, dance and painting. You see it in his company's performances, and the world saw it on opening night of the Olympics.
If you do good work, you give a good energy, you give positive information in culture, in art to the people, affect more people. That's a really good, accomplishment for artists. 2 years we even don't have electricity.
Shen Wei likes to bring his dance company into schools, like PS 218 in the South Bronx. His story is part of the lesson. He grew up amidst abject poverty and repression during China's Cultural Revolution, a time when one spoonful of sugar was considered a treat.
I don't have enough things to compare what childhood should be, which means I think that's the way how everybody grew up in that condition.
When he was 9, Shen Wei was sent to a boarding school to learn Chinese opera.
I only can see my parents twice a year, and my first class is 5:30 in the morning. And also during that time in China, there's no hot water, that we use cold water to wash our face.
After 6.5 years, he'd learned Chinese opera and discipline.
Chinese opera is like have all art form come together because you dance, you sing, you talk like an actor, you're acting, then you have all the makeup, costume.
He achieved a level of success in dance and painting in China, and yet he longed for New York. He received permission to come in 1995. When he landed at JFK, there was fear because he spoke no English, had little money, and his ride was late. But there was also magic in the night.
It's so much smoke in the air, and the smoke heat come on the ground. It just looks like in the movies, and beautiful, and it's so mysterious. It looks beautiful. Like, oh my God, how tall this building is! I couldn't see in the top.
As Shen Wei immersed himself in New York's dance world, he learned English through books and cassettes and learned about the city the hard way.
I don't know the city have a area more dangerous and area more safe. I don't have that concept in my mind. That's why I lived out. It's much cheaper. Why don't live here? Then one night that scared me is I wake up because I hear the gunshots in my building. It's like bam, 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 bam.
He survived that night and surgery to correct an irregular heartbeat. One problem, he didn't have insurance. You had heart surgery and you left the hospital that day to come back home?
Yeah, you come home. You don't have insurance now. You come for stay in the hospital. Then I thought it's okay, but everybody's figured out. It's like, what?
A few years later, his parents came to New York for the first time. They arrived the night of September 10th, 2001. The next morning, as they watched the towers fall, Shen Wei's parents reacted by remembering their own painful experiences.
My parents said, go buy rice and water, because that's the most important things when they grow up during the Cultural Revolution, during what's happening in their life. First things, water and the food.
They asked him to come back to China. He said no. Later that fall, they saw him perform at the Kennedy Center.
See how art still surviving in this moment, how we go through to 4 months later, they see my life just much more calm and we still can work out things in here. That also is a good time for them to see how we change things.
Shen Wei stayed and thrived. His company, Shen Wei Dance Arts, combines Eastern and Western traditions with modern and ancient influences. In 2007, he earned a MacArthur Fellowship, the so-called Genius Award. And this summer, billions watched his choreography during the opening night of the Olympics.
I have to say, when I moved to New York, I never thought today I'd be an international choreographer. Now I find out, sometimes if you do every day the best you can, sometimes you end up a place you don't know, which means much better than you expected or you dreamed.
One-on-one with Shen Wei, Budd Mishkin, New York 1.